Good morning and welcome. My name is James Cook. Let's vlog. And today I want to talk about my Model S. I've had my car for a while now and it seems like quite a good day to talk about it actually, because it's going for an MOT. Always fun. And it's a beautiful British autumn day, which means it's wet and windy and rainy. Oh. Coffee. Can't start the day without that. Must get my proper bracket put onto this fence. I missed that. Had a 3D printed cable holding bracket. Right. Right, I don't know where I'm going. That's not good, because I'm supposed to be there. I also don't know how the sound is going to be on this camera I'm using up here. Or sound from inside cars has always been a bit of a problem. Yes, drive there. I think we're good to go. So I suppose you could say that today's video is going to be a bit of a review of an older Tesla, or in fact older Teslas in general, because really, the question I'm trying to answer here is, would you be better off buying an old Model S or a brand new e-Niro or a Kona EV perhaps? I mean, there's lots of options out there. Unfortunately, Tesla Model S's, they've been quite stubborn in terms of retaining their value over time. I mean, I've had a bit of a look online and I have seen on Auto Trader quite a few Model S's with similar-ish mileage to this, not quite as high. This car's done, well, technically it's almost done 129,000 miles, but I'm just gonna call it 130 for the sake of the video. And most of the other cars had done sort of 120, 110, that sort of figure, but they were still worth 27, 28 according to Auto Trader. Now, whether people actually got that sort of price for these cars, I couldn't say. But it's encouraging that, you know, they feel confident enough to put them on at that price, and there are none lower. That's, you know, the cheapest in the whole of the UK is something like 27,900, which is still a lot of money for, you know, what's a 6-year-old car with 120,000 miles on the clock. Would it be worth going for a new EV, or would you be better off buying the Tesla? Well, that's quite a tricky thing to decide. I suppose ultimately it's going to boil down to exactly what you want to use your car for, as these things always do. But of course, what we are going to do is we're going to focus primarily on what you get from an older Tesla, because if you want to know what you get from a Nissan Leaf, you can just go down to a dealership and have a test drive, and that'll basically give you your answer, won't it? With an old Model S, well, even if you went for a test drive, you wouldn't necessarily know what frequency things tend to break, for example, or, you know, how well various bits of the car hold up to the rigors of time and use. And that's what I'm going to try and enlighten you all on. So I got my car, quite a long time ago now. 6 years, June 2014 was when I got my car. Right at the beginning of Model S deliveries in this country, before autopilot, before the all-wheel drive, before the new front fascia, of course, miles before that. And right from the word go, I was like, oh, awesome, I've got a car that's free to drive, so I'm gonna drive a lot. And I did. Now, I wouldn't say my driving experience has been completely trouble-free. I've had some issues. I think first we'll look at the warranty type things that I had go wrong. So I had a bit of LED lights at the back, the brake lights not quite working as they should. Some of the little LEDs in the strip along the top had gone. That was quite common back then. Don't know if it's still common, but nothing would surprise me. I also had door handle trouble. I've had 3 of the 4 door handles sorted out. I think 2 of them were rewired and 1 of them was actually a replacement unit. But the ones that were rewired, they routed the wires in such a way that they're not expected to fail as soon as they failed originally, in theory. So that's something. I think from a warranty point of view, that's probably pretty much it. Oh no, not quite. There was a bit of rubber seal round the rear passenger door there, which had come away, and they just glued that back. That was done under warranty, I think. And anything else? Nope, that's it. So the non-warranty things that have needed fixing were, well, the main one by miles was I had a tyre pressure sensoring system malfunction. Basically, there's a module in the back of the car that connects to the tyres wirelessly and finds out if they're under pressure or not. That kind of had a fault, an earth to ground fault somehow inside the device, which meant that the entire CAN bus was taken down. Nothing could talk to any other bit of the car, so every single warning light the car has got came on. That was not ideal. It was also the only time I ever got into my Tesla wanting to drive somewhere and had the car say, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. And yeah, that was quite inconvenient and annoying. It wasn't too expensive to get fixed. I seem to remember it was about £500, but the inconvenience was worth more than that to me at the time. It was Christmas. It just wasn't, not ideal, not ideal. I'm trying to think, anything else been done out of warranty? Oh yes, I had some water in the back lights that sort of had got into them. The seal had gone there and it was getting into the boot as well, the rear lift gate. So yeah, that needed sorting. So I got 2 new rear lights there, which were then resealed on. Why I needed, actually, well, I suppose the water had gone in and ruined the light. Anyway, whatever. So that cost about £700, which, you know, is not an inconsiderable amount of money for some lights, but it needed doing and I did it. What else? Nope, I think that's it. So all the other repairs that I've had done have all been to do with, for the most part, people driving into my car and deers leaping in front of it. Yeah. Anyway, you can't blame the car for that. That could happen to any car. So that's it for the sort of history of this vehicle, other than to say that in the time that I've had it, I have obviously done quite a lot of miles, and those miles have been sort of pretty varied in terms of, some of them have been sort of small country lanes, some of them have been whopping great motorways across France. It's been a variety. I've taken it on ferries. I've never actually taken it on the Channel Tunnel. I was put off by stories of how the carriages aren't quite wide enough for comfort unless you go for the extra high one, and yeah, so I don't know. It's also, I like ferries. Ferries are more fun for Jasper, so whenever I've crossed the channel in this car, which I think has only been the once, it was on a ferry. I've been up to Orkney, been to Newquay, been to North Italy, been to Wales a few times. I get about. By and large, how has the feel of the drive changed in all that time? It hasn't. It has not changed at all. Right, now I'm not 100% sure where I'm going or what the place I'm going is called. So, I should probably stop filming and actually find out where the hell I'm going now, actually. Found it! I'm going to forget my coffee. Oh, that'd be a big no-no. And just like that, we're all done. Okay. Time to head home. Oh, can't see around the corner. Okay. Well, that went well. I like it when things go well. MOTs in an electric car are quite funny because basically 50% of the test, not applicable. I always find it interesting talking to the people at these garages, because you get a feel for how many other EVs in the area are going for MOTs and just sort of generally what the sort of average non-electric vehicle enthusiast type person thinks of EVs, and you know, whether they've got any experience with them. And yeah, so was talking to another customer whilst I was waiting for my car to go for its MOT, and she was saying that she would like her next car to be an electric vehicle. And the guy that did the MOT as well, apparently, is also desperately, he specifically wants to get a Tesla. It's nice to see the progression over the years. The question is, if you were going to be buying an EV and you didn't currently have one, would you be better off going for an old Tesla like this one, or a brand spanking new car? And part of the question there is, well, what's available for the same sort of money as one of these would cost? So if you can pick up a second-hand Tesla Model S for about 28,000, well, how much would a new one from not Tesla be? Well, I've had a bit of a look, and they all seem to be about, the cheapest you can get really is about £28,000 for any EV, and that was, if I remember correctly, a Zoe. I'm sure there are deals, especially if you get sort of a slightly older one. And I'm not really comparing this to an older other EV. If you want that, you could get a Nissan Leaf, for example, which from a few years ago, you probably pick one of those up for about £12,000, which is pretty good going. That's a good price for a car that is essentially free to drive around, other than insurance. You've got cars like the Kona EV and the Nero, the e-Nero. They're both very good cars. I would quite happily drive one of those. Generally speaking though, if you get a new EV, it's going to come with a full warranty. And the thing about an older Tesla like this one, it's 6 years old now, so it's well outside the bumper-to-bumper warranty. It's only really got battery and drivetrain warranty left, and even then there's less than 2 years on that now. So if you buy a 6-year-old Model S, there is some risk involved in that you could have MCU failure, or you could have a suspension problem, or there are things that all cars have that might not be great. Now in my experience, in terms of the drivetrain, this car is actually aged really well. So I think this is the right point to sort of explain about the current state of my car. So it's on its original discs and pads. It did just have an advisory for them, not because of wear, but because of corrosion, but it still passed. The battery has aged very well. That is, I've lost about 5% of the range, perhaps. Interestingly enough, when it comes to range, I hadn't realized this car's actually on winter tires. I think when I originally got a new set of tires in winter last year for these 19-inch wheels, I think the helpful people at Tesla put winter tires on, despite the fact I did say quite clearly I want all-weather tires. So that's kind of annoying, because of course driving in summer is going to wear the tires down that much quicker, and they just won't work as well. So I'm not really best pleased with that. On the upside, if it does snow this year, which it didn't last, I might be quite grateful for the winter tires. But it's interesting because I had noticed that the range in summer, when the weather outside was nice and sort of average temperature, it just wasn't as much range as I'm used to out of this car. It wasn't a huge difference, but there was definitely a sort of 5 to 10 mile drop in range that I wasn't, about 5 miles, and it just wasn't. Having driven this car for so many miles and so many years, I've become quite used to it. So whenever anything is slightly different, it kind of stands out in a way that obviously it wouldn't if I was less familiar with the car. So it's interesting that I did manage to pick up on that little change without actually realizing that it was because of the tires. I actually genuinely did not know what it was to do with. I thought perhaps there was some additional drivetrain losses because the battery had aged or something like that, but no, it'll be the tires. Now that I know that it's on winter tires, it all makes perfect sense to me, because you do get less range on winter tires than you would on all-weather tires, especially in summer. So range is down about 5%. The biggest thing that's changed really is the acceleration. If I plant my foot to the floor, after a second or so, a little dotted line appears to indicate that I'm not quite getting 100% power. I haven't really noticed the difference all that much, but that's because I don't really floor it that often. Quite honestly, I don't need to. Normally, even, not fully floored, the car is more than fast enough. I just saw what was it? That was a Hyundai Kona EV go by. So they're obviously getting much more popular. seeing them on random back roads now. And the other thing that's changed as it's got older is that the supercharging in particular is slower and seems to tail off much quicker. Now this car is actually, it needs a bit of a air conditioning refresh, so I have a feeling that the battery cooling whilst it's charging isn't quite as efficient as it should be, and that could be part of what's reducing that charge rate, but also battery age is very definitely part of that. But it is still definitely usable. I would still have no problem driving a big old long distance. I might just charge for a shorter time and charge a little bit more frequently possibly, but then again maybe not. I mean, it's always nice to stop for an hour and have a proper lunch sometimes. Yeah, so that's it. And I'm trying to think, is anything else changed? Not really. You know, I drove a brand spanking new various EVs over the summer, a Model S, a Model X and an e-tron, and the Model S and X, they felt just like this car feels. The braking feel is quite different, but that's mainly because those cars have actually got a different brake setup than this car, because of they have autopilot and this car is pre-autopilot car. Has anything else changed? Well, it rattles about as much as it ever did. Yep, so that's not changed. There are a couple of sort of stain marks on the roof that I've noticed over the past years, where a bit of water had come in and stained this fabric on the ceiling. I'm not too bothered about that, it could probably be cleaned out, but that is something that you do get sometimes, a bit of water ingress. So if you're buying a second-hand Model S, I probably would have a quick look around, just sort of see if there's any obvious areas where water is getting in and marking the interior. Can't think of anything else in particular off the top of my head. So in other words, after all these miles and all these years, it still basically feels and drives like it did when it was new, which I've got to tell you, that is not the experience that I have had with past cars. And the battery is holding up very well, so certainly if I had the option to buy an EV with a battery that's been looked after by me, I would have absolutely no hesitation. So that is something I suppose you want to look at when you get a second-hand EV. Always really, you want to have a look at how well the range is holding up, which is, it can be tricky to work that out actually, unless you're Tesla and you can actually sort of analyze the batteries more thoroughly. Busy on this road at the moment, cars and vans parked everywhere. So basically this car has aged really well. Actually, I've been over the moon. I bought it thinking, oh, if this car lasts, then it's going to pay for itself over time, and it has. So I really can't complain. Now we've covered off, how a Tesla ages, the next question, I suppose, is, well, is there an advantage to offset the disadvantage of not having a proper bumper-to-bumper warranty? Well, I think in that respect, the only real advantage is the supercharger network. Access to that fast charging network means that you can drive with confidence across the whole of the EU, and if you're getting an older Tesla, it'll probably come with free supercharging, so it won't even cost you money to drive across the whole of the EU. That's fantastic. It really is. What else can I say? I mean, free driving across Europe. What's not to love? That is the main advantage. Some people might consider the brand and the badge an advantage. Maybe. Certainly, this is a very, very big EV. There's a lot of space inside, and from outside it looks fantastic. And you won't necessarily get those two benefits with all the other EVs that are available on the market at the moment. In fact, you probably won't get those advantages, actually. Anything else? Well, I don't know. Some people would consider Tesla's service as a plus, and some people would consider Tesla's service as a negative. I have no problem with the way Tesla do things, so I would consider it a plus. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of, it's fairly personal preference. Obviously, some things on this car will be a lot more expensive. Things like discs and pads are definitely going to be pricier than if you didn't have a Tesla, because it's a big car, it's sold as a relatively premium car, which means that of course it is going to cost more for some of those sorts of bits and bobs. And the insurance might be more as well for the same reason, and also because it's higher performance, which I suppose is another advantage that you're going to get, despite the fact that this is the slowest Tesla that they have ever made. It is still a couple of seconds to 60 quicker, more than a couple of seconds to 60 quicker than any of the other EVs we've talked about today. In case you couldn't guess, I love this car. I would definitely want to keep this car over moving to any other EV, brand new or not. If I didn't already have this car and I had to essentially take a punt on somebody else's second-hand car, well, I'd need to look carefully at what that car felt like. I'd need to go for a test drive. I'd need to compare it to some of the new ones and go for a test drive in those as well, because some of those will have features that a really old Tesla like this one, pre-autopilot, it wouldn't have. Like, I don't have emergency automatic braking, whereas almost all new cars, I'm sure, do have that. So there are things to think about, but by and large, I'm amazed how well this car has held up, and I credit that principally to the fact that it's an electric vehicle as opposed to the Tesla build quality, although they obviously do make a fairly reliable drivetrain now, although they did have some teething problems right at the very beginning. Okay, what delightful weather. Yep, I think it's fair to say I still love that car after 6 years. It's brilliant. So that brings this video to a close. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it interesting and informative. If you have, remember to leave a like and share and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Instagram and Patreon. Links are in the description. And I want to say a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. And I'll see you all in the next episode of my vlog. Bye! Oh, actually, I want to go this way, don't I? It's definitely over a couple of seconds quicker to 6. It's definitely over a couple of... It's definitely over a couple of seconds quicker to... I think 2 of them will be what else? What else? Oh, this is turning into quite a long video. This is going to be fun to edit.